In 2001, Nintendo entered the 6th generation of gaming with 2 new game systems. The Nintendo GameCube, released in the fall of that year, only to go down in history as Nintendo's worst-selling home console until the release of the Nintendo Wii U. On the handheld side, the aging Game Boy line of systems was given a proper upgrade with a new 32-bit system, the Game Boy Advance. The original Game Boy, first released in 1989, managed to stick around for so long thanks to a low price point, new iterations, and the massive popularity of the Pokemon series that carried the handheld for the past 5 years. Pokemon was more popular than ever during this time. At the end of the Game Boy's lifespan, 5 of the top 10 best-selling games belonged to the Pocket Monsters franchise, with countless spin-offs dominating the sales charts and cartridge slots. However, critics were beginning to see cracks in the franchise's formula. With the rise of new multimedia brands, Pokemon was in need of something new, and once again, that would fall onto the shoulders of Game Freak, the creators of the Pokemon series. Everything has a story. This is the story of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. In this series, we'll be taking a look at the development, release, and legacy of the first Pokemon games for the Game Boy Advance. We'll also be taking a look at other titles related to the games, and how Nintendo continued to keep the massive franchise afloat. At the end of 2000, Pokemon Crystal released on the Game Boy Color, marking an end to the 2nd generation of mainline Pokemon titles. While successful, Crystal version was the first mainline Pokemon title to sell less than 10 million units worldwide. To critics of the Pocket Monsters franchise, this was further proof that the series was simply a fad, similar to Beanie Babies or Furbies. At Game Freak, the popularity of the Pokemon series caused them to reconsider the initial idea of ending the franchise after Pokemon Gold and Silver. At a Nintendo press event on March 7, 2001, new Pokemon titles were revealed to be in development for Nintendo's Game Boy Advance. Tentatively titled Pocket Monsters Game Boy Advance versions, no gameplays for the titles were shown. Instead, a handful of new Pokemon that were to appear in the game were revealed. The press event also emphasized the connectivity the new titles would have for the upcoming Game Boy Advance e-reader add-on. Pokemon creator Satoshi Tajiri decided to step down from his role of director after Pokemon Gold and Silver, instead taking on the role of an executive producer. This left the future of the franchise in the hands of Junichi Masuda, a composer, programmer, and assistant director of the previous Pokemon titles. Masuda and his team had their work cut out for them. Development of the Pokemon titles caused the team at Game Freak to struggle. In an interview with Game Informer in 2017, Masuda noted that Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire were the hardest Pokemon games for his team to develop. Not only did the team have high expectations after the successful release of previous entries, but the new hardware offered a wide array of development options. Masuda recalled, "With Ruby and Sapphire, the screen got a little longer, and it was a different aspect ratio. A lot more colors and sound channels, so the tech was improved dramatically. It allowed us to do a lot more, and gave us more freedom, but at the same time, it made it take a lot longer to do things, and was more resource intensive." Masuda's worries didn't stop there. He would detail stomach issues and nightmares regarding the game's release that kept the young developer up at night. Game Boy Advance owners wouldn't have to wait too long before the first Pokemon content hit the system, although it wasn't in the manner that many expected. The e-reader released in Japan in December 2001. The accessory was released in North America the following year in September. Alongside the e-reader, a new set of Pokemon cards were released under the Expedition base set banner. These cards came loaded with data that, when read by the e-reader, would unlock mini-games and special content within games. These cards within the Pokemon trading card game would later be known as the E-Series. A mini-game titled Machop at Work was released alongside the e-reader, and required the Pokemon cards Machop, Machoke, and Machamp to work. Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire weren't on display at Nintendo's booth at the annual Electronic Entertainment Expo in 2002, but demos of the game were playable during Pokemon Festa 2002. Pokemon Festa was a tour across Japan used to promote the release of Ruby and Sapphire. The tour featured a handful of Japanese cities during the end of July and early August. Alongside the demo of the games were other Pokemon-themed activities, including a theater that previewed upcoming Pokemon animated films. On November 21st, 2002, Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire released for the Game Boy Advance in Japan. The games were an immediate hit, selling over 1 million copies within the first 4 days of release, and selling over 4 million copies by the end of 2002. North America received the games a few months later, and were joined by a massive advertising campaign. Nintendo of America spent $7 million to advertise the upcoming games, with primetime television commercials, giveaways, and the usual print media ads in magazines and game stores. On March 19, 2003, Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire released in North America, selling over 2 million copies in the region within the first month. The release of the new titles in North America came only a few days before the release of the Game Boy Advance SP, helping boost hardware and software sales for Nintendo. The new Pokemon games were the largest to date. A brand new region called the Hoenn region was introduced to players, based on the Kyushu region and the surrounding islands in Japan. A total of 135 new Pokemon were introduced to the series. The improved hardware gave Ruby and Sapphire a chance to stand out in comparison to previous titles in the series. No longer locked to the 8-bit confines of the 1989 hardware of the Game Boy, Pokemon was presented in stunning color and beautiful sound. New features were introduced in the titles as well, bringing more complexity to the game's turn-based combat. Double battles were the most notable of these new features. Rather than sending out a single Pokemon at a time, double battles let you control 2 Pokemon at once, against 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. Abilities were also introduced to the game, giving the Pocket Monsters passive quirks both in and out of battle. Side content new to the series included Pokemon contests that saw your monsters using their moves to impress judges rather than win battles. Social components took a huge step forward as well, with secret bases. Players were able to customize special areas, and after connecting their game to a friend, they would be able to visit their secret bases as well. The story of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire also differed from its predecessors. Like in previous titles, you play as either a male or female character as they set out to capture Pokemon, collect gym badges, and challenge the region's best trainers. However, the iconic Team Rocket, the antagonist of previous Pokemon games, were replaced with new, version-exclusive villains, Team Magma for Pokemon Ruby, and Team Aqua for Sapphire. These evil teams weren't focused on stealing Pokemon or organized crime, rather they were eco-terrorists. Team Magma wanted to awaken the legendary Pokemon Groudon in order to create more land in the Pokemon world. Team Aqua wanted the opposite. Their goal was to revive Kyogre to create more water for the Pokemon of the seas. The weather and nature motif fit nicely within Hoenn's geography. The region featured smaller towns and vast wilderness, ranging from open seas to volcanic mountain ranges, dense forest, and brutal deserts. Ruby and Sapphire were met with positive reviews. Critics praised the game for the new monsters, the introduction of double battles, and the game's bright and colorful art style. Some, however, pointed out more negative aspects, notably the game's less than stellar visual quality in comparison to other Game Boy Advance titles at the time. Others were upset with the exclusion of some older Pokemon, who had become fan favorites. Unlike previous titles in the series, Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire would not allow players to transfer Pokemon from their older games to the new ones. Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire were joined by new cards, toys, and a new season of the Pokemon anime called Pokemon Advance. The new generation of Pokemon was off to a strong start, but Pokemania had already run its course. Sales for the new titles were below that of previous entries. Some pointed to the increased popularity of series like Yu-Gi-Oh! Cutting into Pokemon's market. Others made note of the Game Boy Advance's smaller install base when compared to that of the original Game Boy. In the end, Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire sold over 16 million copies worldwide, far less than Gold and Silver's 23 million from just a few years earlier. However, these were still strong numbers, as Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire became the second and third best-selling games in 2003, and would go on to become the best-selling Game Boy Advance titles of all time. It was the morning of December 25th, 2003. It was still dark outside when I opened my eyes to the excitement of Christmas morning. For the past year, I spent my time watching the Pokemon anime, collecting cards and toys. I would draw pictures of Pokemon in my notebooks at school, and spend recess pretending to send my pocket monsters out to battle my friends. But that day, December 25th, 2003, would solidify my love of the franchise. I raced down the stairs to the living room to see the Christmas tree lit up. Under it was a brand new Game Boy Advance and a copy of Pokemon Ruby version. There were other toys under the tree that year, but none of them compared to the excitement I felt when it came to owning my first Pokemon game. I quickly inserted the small red cartridge into an Indigo Game Boy Advance and began my journey in the Hoenn region. While I'd spent some time with Pokemon games in the past, none of them had ever been my own. I poured countless hours into the game over the coming weeks. I played day and night, burning through AA batteries. A week after receiving the game, I won my first battle against a friend. It was a nice way to celebrate my 10th birthday. I continued playing the game, oftentimes poorly. I finally beat my copy of Pokemon Ruby on January 19th, 2004. With over 100 hours already put into the game, I was hooked. Thanks for watching. This was the first part in a 2-part series about the story of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. You can support this channel by liking the video and sharing it on your favorite social media sites. Don't forget to subscribe to catch the next video when it comes out next week. In the next part, we'll be taking a closer look at the various spin-offs around Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, the legacy of the games left on the franchise, and how it further impacted my own life.